What is up, my ninjas? I'm Strydent, and this is a message to my patrons. So a lot has been going on. I've actually been pretty busy. Some stuff came up at work, switched my times around, so my schedule is kind of out of whack. But what I will be doing, regardless of that, is I'm going to try to upload videos here every 2 weeks. If I can do it faster than that, then I would do it. But every 2 weeks gives me enough time to, put together a decent video for you that actually says something and is not just, kind of thrown together. I don't like throwing shit together. I have a couple things that I might do differently. I'm going to do art-related videos on here, but I'm also going to do like a bonus review for you guys. And those will only be open to my patrons, which means there's going to be about 2 people. It's going to be 2 of you that are going to be seeing all this stuff. I have some vlogs that I do that I think I'm just going to put up here instead of putting them on like SoundCloud or something. It's just bonus stuff where, I used to do thoughts from my car, and I started putting them up on SoundCloud, but SoundCloud does this weird thing where unless you pay for your subscription, your free subscription only allows you about 7 or 8 videos or, downloads. Uploads, actually. Goodness. And after you go over the 7, they start cycling your videos. So they push out your, one of the 7 and then make room for the new video, and so on and so forth until you have the new 7 and the old ones are hidden. I don't really like that because I want you guys to have access to all of them. So Patreon seems like the perfect place to put them. Now, on the flip side, I am kind of, I don't know, Patreon keeps on, it's fun to have this other place to put stuff. And I know I've been really slow with putting that stuff up, and I apologize. But I'm going to try to do my best to spread the word so we can get more people on here, more people can see this stuff, because I feel like in some ways this is not, I could do better, I guess is what I'm saying. I could do better. I could get more stuff going on up here. So the first bonus review I'm going to put up here is my Teen Titans the Judas contract. I'll see if that brings some traffic this way. I'm going to definitely, this will probably show up on YouTube first, and then I'll put it on here on Patreon for you guys who are interested. Yeah, I'll start putting my my G.I. Joe shorts when I'm practicing how to use effects, pretty much pre-made effects like muzzle flashes, debris, explosions, etc. So I can add a dimension to some of these images because, like I said, it's going to be images and motion, like me moving the figure, kind of like I did with the Cobra Commander speech in the 2.0 prologue. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of both, and I want to get some of those tests out there. So I'm going to be uploading those tests on YouTube soon. And I know I've said this over the last maybe 2 years, and it's been a process because, like I said, things have changed, a lot over and throughout the time, and it's difficult. This is a part-time gig, and the same thing with my freelance. It's become my part-time gig, but I do it in between my full-time gig and my parental responsibilities, So it's not easy, and having this schedule where I almost every weekend or every other weekend, I know it's about twice a month, I upload shit, like I dump a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. I want to have a more regular schedule here on Patreon. So I have a ton of thoughts from my car, and I might just upload each of those. Some of them are really old, so I'm giving you guys a like a heads up. But some of them are really old, and some of them are the conversation is relevant, but the topic may be from several years back. But I'm giving you a heads up now because maybe this will start conversations and you guys can get back at me wherever you choose to and we can talk about this stuff. I'm also going to experiment with putting some of those videos, some videos in general, up on Facebook to see how that works on the Facebook group. See if, you know, there's things I can get away with on there that I can't get away with on YouTube and such. So anyway, that's what's going through my head. A lot of trying to figure out ways to utilize this. And the next video is just going to be a talk about the basics of design, like, you know, character design in general, because I feel like it's a subject that needs to be talked about or spoken about, and it doesn't get enough talk. I think it's because a lot of people are trying to be diplomatic somewhat. I think they're trying not to make waves by seemingly dissing anybody's artwork, because I noticed that that is a thing in the art world. People will do bad work and people won't say anything about it. But yet, good people that have skills but are vocal about what works and what doesn't work, they tend to not, they get jobs, but they get shunned. Now, just because you say that a design doesn't work in your opinion, it doesn't mean that you're hating the person, because after all, when you get trained traditionally in school, as you go through your training, that is a big part of the process. Even if you work for an art director, they'll tell you this design doesn't work. They will flat out tell you this sucks. You know, some of them are nicer than others, but they'll say, you know, this doesn't work. I had a lot of mean ass teachers. I had one teacher that burnt one of my classmates' artwork. I mean, he was bullshitting. He kind of deserved a reaction, but she took it overboard. She threw turpentine on his shit and set that motherfucker on fire right there in class. Burnt this dude's canvas, and he didn't put anything on the canvas. I think he gessoed the canvas, but he said, you know, it was the thoughts floating around in the ether or some bullshit. He was high as fuck when he gessoed it and just didn't do anything else. And, you know, a lot of artists do that, especially in the fine arts. But she wasn't buying the explanation because we're illustrators. It was an illustration class. And she wanted him to use his imagination and actually create something, not bullshit about it and then, you know, come up with an elaborate explanation. So I want to preface here, and I will do it again in the video, that when I do point out what works and what does not work, I am in no way trying to diss what people do. I'm just talking about, you know, because people have skills. You know, when I did the last character design video, ooh Lord, I pointed out a lot of designs that didn't work, but it's not saying that the people that drew or created them cannot draw or create. They're good creators, they're good designers, they're good artists. It's just that the combination of their skill and their art director's want or needs did not work for the character, in my opinion. So, you know, that does happen. There's a lot of talented artists that go to work for less than talented art directors, or art directors with limited scope, or just companies that have a limited vision of what should be. And, you know, sometimes when they're dealing with these pre-existing IPs, they go way off the deep end where you're like, that doesn't work. I mean, you know, good examples are Rocksteady with how they dealt with the entire Batman mythos. Everything worked, you know, design-wise. The only thing that's kind of is the Arkham Knight Nightwing design and the Arkham Knight, you know, Iron Man Batman design. It was kind of like a little much given what you were dealing with. You know what I mean? It didn't really seem like the situation was that much escalated from the previous ones that he would need all that armor in comparison to the amount of armor you had. Remember the armored bat suit that you had in Arkham Knight and Arkham City? I think it was mostly in Arkham Knight. I mean, Arkham Knight. Arkham Asylum, I'm sorry. You remember you had an armored bat suit that you used in some of the challenges and stuff? I'm surprised they didn't just go back to that. You know what I mean? Because that looked, it was a lot, but it still looked more along the lines of a heavy bat suit. And it didn't look like Iron Man. The pieces weren't shifting and all that craziness because there's no need for it. But, you know, it looks cool, and they did that. So that's where they went overboard, but I think everything else was successful. But then you look at Injustice, and the designs are so far out of left field that you're just like, what the hell were you guys thinking? Like, that doesn't look like Superman. That doesn't look like Batman. That doesn't, like, it's the somewhat silhouette of those characters, but functionally speaking, it doesn't feel like those characters. And a lot of them, I'm just like, what? Their Black Canary's dope, though. I like that. Supergirl, I'm kind of like, wow. I mean, it looks alien, but it doesn't look Kryptonian based on all the things that have been, you know, done before this design. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm getting at when we talk character design. I'm a little old school, so a lot of my my design aesthetics, it's not that I can't do what they do now, but a lot of my aesthetics lean more towards stuff that was done before. Because I think there's a lot of styles right now that are prevalent that aren't good. They're not good. They're flashy. There's a lot of shit going on, but on a very fundamental level, they're not good. So, you know, I think it misses the point, and it makes it more difficult for those characters to transition from, you know, the screen, you know, as a 2D character into 3 dimensions. Whereas the simpler designs, you add texture, you know what I mean? You add different materials to some of those old designs, and the characters come to life. Like, who would have thought that with what we were seeing with Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and Captain America, you just add texture, you know, add different materials to the you know, the underpants, the boots, the gloves. I mean, you can take the underpants off. They've done that, the over underpants. And then you add texture to the cloth that makes up the bodysuit, the onesie, the unitard. And then you have a believable design. Because it works, you know. People always said stuff like they're wearing flight suits and shit, you know. But you get it. It's a onesie. It's a giant onesie. But what it's made of is what makes it effective or not in the real world. You know what I mean? Or in a believable sense in that universe. So those are the kind of things I'm going to go over when we talk about character design in the next video. And like I said, don't get all pissed off and don't start attacking. I mean, some of you don't do this, so this isn't aimed at everybody. But a lot of you guys out there, you spend a lot of time trying to attack my perspective as if there was no credence in what I was saying. You know, people attacked how some of those drawings, remember I did those drawings for Warner Brothers, which means I had direction on what they wanted me to do and what they didn't want me to do. So, you know, big feet, big hands. At the time, some of the sketches that the director of that project saw me do at Wizard World Chicago, I was drawing the Capcom-ish style that I usually do. But amongst all the pictures I had there, I had stuff that was more along the lines of Jim Lee with the narrow, small feet, you know what I mean? And smaller hands, more proportionate hands. I had stuff that was, you know, cross-hatchy and crazy line work all over the place. But the stuff that caught their attention was seeing the DC characters drawn in the Capcom-ish, you know, more Bendis-ish style. So that's why they wanted me to do what I did. So the people bitching about, you know, the fact that some of their hands looked kind of big and, you know, things were exaggerated, that was the point, you know? That's what art direction is. You know, the client gives you your parameters and you work within those parameters. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's why I've been so hesitant to do another one. That's why you haven't seen many art-related videos on my my YouTube channel, because despite what I know in the years I've been doing this, it gets frustrating as hell to hear people who can't prove that they know what they're doing because they refuse to make videos or put up artwork anywhere for you to see it. They just come at you like you don't know what you're saying. You know, and if you listen, there were points made, lots of them, that, you know, it makes sense. You know, these are things that all of us were taught. It's just a lot of people don't listen to those things. And they make sense. I mean, granted, you are using your imagination, so you can break rules and you can go in different directions, but you have to be able to understand that on a fundamental level, you have to have some certain things present to make the design more effective. So anyway, that's it for my message to the patrons. Expect these things soon. Thank you to all my current patrons. You guys are awesome. Especially you, TJ. Thank you so much. Elias, I've got more videos coming because we haven't met up in a minute. But expect more videos coming. I have one coming up right after this, and that will be the character design one. And instead of me it's going to be a video where I go through pictures that I've collected of designs I think that work, and we're going to talk about what works on those things, so you guys have that in the forefront. And then after that, we're going to go back to more of the fundamental stuff, so that you can be practicing how to build up to the character design stage, you know, or stages that I talk about in the character design video. So it's always going to be, you know, fundamental, practice, design, practice, design, so you understand how to implement what you are practicing. So anyway, that's it for me. You guys have been great. Peace outside.